We'll convene the meeting. All to order. 6, and let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, Gail, if you could please do the roll call.
I will tell you that the audio is a little bit low for us online, so if you can speak up and into the mics, that would be great. Let's see here. Councilmember Hurtak, Frank Coffenauer.
Oh, Councilwoman Hurtak just walked in.
Excellent. That brings us to 9, so we should have a quorum. Frank Coffenauer.
Present virtually.
Thank you. Yanika Mills.
Present.
Michael Marino. David Hay.
Here.
Emily Hinsdale.
Here.
Daniel Riffenberg.
Here virtually.
Anna Grundman.
Here.
Karen Kress.
Here virtually.
Rebecca Hessinger.
Here.
Omar Pirzada.
Present.
Jason Jackman.
Here virtually.
Nicole Dufa.
Here.
Glormar Belangia.
Here.
Sarah Templeman.
I'm here
Burak.
virtually, Burak Konuk,
Thank
on
you.
behalf of Sarah Templeman.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Una Johnson.
Here virtual.
I believe Catherine Coyle is excused due to medical. Is that correct? Connor, do you recall?
I don't recall off the top of my head, not for this month, but I can certainly find out.
Okay, thank you.
This is Lisa Silva, and she has communicated with me of a medical issue.
Okay. Arizona Jenkins. Gus Ignis.
Here.
Ashley Anderson. Debbie Roney. We do have an in-person quorum.
Sorry about that, y'all. Do we have any public comment today?
Your votes.
Okay. Didn't know if anybody was online. Great. Okay, so now we're going to go to the approval of the minutes from November 20th. Okay, so I have a motion and a second. All in any comments? Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, passes. We have one action item today. It is the efficient transportation decision making. So looking forward to hear about that. Welcome.
Morning.
Someone could take off that little rectangle. That'd be great. Thank you.
Good morning, Wyatt Birchall, TPO staff, here to provide an overview of ETDM project 14579, State Road 60, covering the limits of the Courtney Campbell Causeway from the McMullen Booth Road to west of the Veterans Expressway. The efficient transportation decision-making or ETDM process assesses transportation projects likely to have a significant environmental impact and establishes interagency coordination prior to the project development and design. So this is prior to project development and design. This is merely a concept. The main focus of today's meeting is to gather your input as the LRC on early identification of potential effects to the surrounding area, which is what we're here today. The TPO is a stakeholder in the ETDM process and provides prepared comments to FDOT for their evaluation. The goals of today's meeting, again, an overview of the proposed project based on FDOT's advanced notification packet. We'll briefly touch on a sample of some of the TPO plans and studies that we've reviewed so far. And we will want to be gathering input from the LRC for inclusion or fitting consideration for inclusion in our prepared comments which are due January 6th to FDOT. So to cover what is in the FDOT material, the project State Road 60 is an existing 4-lane divided highway, 2 lanes in each direction. That includes several crossings over Old Tampa Bay. The road is functionally classified as urban principal arterial. It has a context classification of suburban commercial. At the limits of this project, which connect the city of Clearwater to the city of Tampa, would be approximately 9.5 miles. The project development and environment study will document the impacts of potential widening. Here is just a map. You can see the portions of the causeway and those portions which are crossing over Old Tampa Bay through a structure, bridges. The proposed project is looking at alleviating congestion, providing for emergency evacuation needs, and to address resiliency of the corridor. And you can see here some of the other things that are being evaluated with this proposed project. The land use of the project area, defined by a 500-foot buffer, is mostly natural land. Nearly 70% of the corridor is bays and estuaries. The other large land use is transportation, and you can see some of the other existing land uses here. The State Road 60 serves as a key east-west corridor connecting regional hubs and serves as an evacuation route. There are many recreational and transit considerations, including the Courtney Campbell Causeway Trail, which is a separated 12-foot path. There are significant recreational and protected lands associated with this proposed project. These are just a few. It's not an exhaustive list, but there are many public access and boat ramps, protected lands and trails, other parks. Some of these include Cooper's Point, multi-use trails, the Safety Harbor Paddling Trail. This corridor also has several special designations, including its designation as a Florida Scenic Highway. The road also has a designation as a remarkable site for Florida birding and trail site. There are also many natural and coastal water resources associated here. See that there are over 4,000 linear feet of environmentally sensitive shorelines. Again, that's just looking at a 500-foot project buffer. The corridor is significantly exposed to sea level rise impact, and see that 780 acres are at risk from sea level rise. That's just based on the 500-foot buffer that was applied to the EST. There are 7 water bodies, including verified impaired water and documented water quality issues, and significant mangrove swamps, saltwater marshes, mixed forest, wetlands, and hardwood forests. Some of the anticipated coordination as it relates to the physical infrastructure and navigation is that FAA coordination would be required due to the proximity to runway 10 approach, the 5 bridges which span Old Tampa Bay. Those would also have to receive coordination from a navigation standpoint. The TPO had looked at the long-range transportation plan. We're currently reviewing our plans and studies. This particular project is not highlighted in our long-range planning. It does belong as an unfunded need. The roadway is identified as high in criticality and high in vulnerability in the state of good repair and resiliency needs assessment that was conducted for the 2050 LRTP. Criticality is defined as proximity to major facilities. It also looks at demographic factors such as the income per household. It looks at proximity to major facilities such as power plants, and whether or not a road is designated or serves as an evacuation corridor. Those are some of the factors. There are many other factors that go into determining whether something is critical. There's scoring with stakeholders that goes into that. The criticality and vulnerability is determined based on a combined sea level rise projection and category 3 storm event happening. And it looks at how that transportation facility would perform under that scenario, determined by potential inundation depth. The other study here, which is worth noting, the Hillsborough County Corridor Preservation Plan, where no additional lanes are called for. We'll continue to look at other plans and studies not listed here and hope to get some of your feedback on potential plans and studies that we might also consider. So was fairly brief overview because the main focus of today's meeting is to really collect feedback from the LRC on what are some of the potential areas that we might call attention to and focus on in prepared comments for FDOT to consider in a potential project. So I placed some discussion prompts on the screen that you can't see, but I won't go through all of them. I'll just simply open it up to comments and feedback and make sure that those get documented and recorded so that we can go back and refer to them.
I have a couple of questions for you. We're aware that it's a designated scenic corridor, right? That's been acknowledged, or?
The Courtney Campbell Causeway is a Florida Scenic Highway. Yes.
Okay, so then there's certain protections, right? In that, or is it just a nice sign on the side of the road? Like what is involved with that scenic corridor designation?
I can't speak to everything that's included in that, but there is enabling state legislation. What the protections are is hard to say.
I did look at the frequently asked questions on the Florida Scenic Highways website. And they do have one frequently asked question, which is, a scenic highway designation, does that include widening? And the answer on their website is no, it does not include widening. So I came across that.
Do you think it includes, is it designated money for landscaping? Because I know in a lot of our projects we see, they always say, there's no money for landscaping, you get grants. I don't know if that's
MTT has done landscaping projects here in the past. I remember several years ago, because there was a long discussion about it because of all the palm diseases and what type of palm they were going to plant out there. So I know they have in the past. I'm not sure if that's from scenic highway council.
Well, and I know this road went over a major overhaul just like 20 years ago, I think. Right? Remember when they had to reorient the Grand Hyatt entrance and there used to be a Red Lobster out there and starting to sound like Councilman Miranda. Yeah, it's just seems odd that we're already talking about it's time to look at it again, because I know there was a lot of money that took, because they had to take a whole bunch of property for that, expansion. So it just, to me, just seemed a little odd that we're already back here again, looking at, you know, another eventual expansion a couple of years in.
Rebecca,
I thought this was more about shoring up the sides to prevent more erosion from around the bridge.
I think it's a combination of both.
They have a separate project to do that.
Yeah, I
So
was wondering, did we have any information on how the bridge did after the surge from Helene? Was there significant erosion after that, I would imagine?
Yes.
I can't speak to the specifics. I'm not sure the answer to that. I vaguely remember there being lighting issues associated after Milton and reestablishing the lighting was one of them.
There was erosion during Helene. I can't remember if I learned that during city council or on the estuary board, but there was erosion. I think part of this is, I sit on the estuary board, and one of the biggest issues is that, if you can pull, well, I guess y'all can visualize it, because I don't know what it's called, but it's the northwest corner. Basically water just sits in there where water is supposed to be able to filter through the bay, and then it gets stuck there. That's one of the reasons we have high algae problems, the seagrass issues. So I think part of this might be trying to solve that. And so that was gonna be my question is, whatever we look at absolutely has to look at the water quality in that corner. The other thing I'm interested in, and this just kind of goes overall, is we all just experienced 2 hurricanes back to back. And when we're talking about evacuation routes, maybe I just dreamed this, but no, I don't know why we don't use reverse lanes during evacuation routes. To me, that just makes perfect common sense. We're all going one way and we shouldn't have empty lanes on the other. So for example, I live right up Florida Avenue and the northern Florida Avenue was packed, but we didn't take over the southern lanes and I don't know why. That doesn't make any sense to me. Why wouldn't we take over the lanes for the interstate? If you're really trying to get people out, instead of expanding a lane, why don't we put money into figuring out how to reverse the lanes? It seems like a much better use of time and quite frankly, money to do that. I was just aghast at the fact that we had all of these empty lanes that we could have easily used. So that would be something that I would love to see you look into instead of the expansion. It seems like this would be way more expensive than widening an interstate because of all the sensitive things around it.
Yeah, those are great points. And because it's such a preliminary process, one of the things that can be a good, and many of you have seen ETDM projects before, but I think in the last presentation, David had pointed out that along the 301 corridor, There might be a potential ammonia pipeline owned by the Port of Tampa. Those are good examples of things to identify very early, to call attention to, so that FDOT can investigate them. So things such as water quality issues and where those are originating, what the factors are. It doesn't have to be too specific, but if there's a community concern that's outstanding, if there's a feature, it's a 9.5-mile project area. It's quite a large project. If there are specific things that we can highlight, call attention to, be it a plan, a study, or a physical item, those are great for us to be able to collect, and then we can point attention to those areas so that FDOT is aware of them and evaluate them if they choose.
I think that you make a good point about separating capacity from hurricane evacuation, because the capacity of people that need to leave during hurricane evacuation, that's not a good thing to plan for by widening lanes. But try finding other alternatives, and that is using multiple lanes would be a good one. I mean, you could add 1,000 lanes, and it's still going to be hard to get everybody out in a brief amount of time for evacuation. So I would love to see any plan making sure to separate those items and not conflating average capacity with hurricane capacity.
Sorry, I don't know if it's my role, but I see Danielle has her hand raised.
Yes, I've got it. Okay. I'll go to Gus, but thank you for that.
First of all, I want to say, when we redid, I wasn't here, but as a community, we redid the airport end of the highway. It used to be a traffic light to get on to the veterans. So the traffic was absolutely hideous. So the investment into that expansion of that end by from Rocky Point to the airport was huge for traffic flow. Now, for some reason, we build these things, we still leave Rocky Point as that traffic light, which is the major point of congestion for the Port of Tampa. You have the same problem in Gandy at that right after the track, right after whatever that is, they built all those apartments on the north side of Gandy, which then creates another place. You create these choke points for development, I guess we would say. To me, I used to work on Rocky Point, and I was like, why would we build on this island that's closed for flooding, creates this choke point both ways, both going to Pinellas and coming back? And I sat in that traffic and been on the veterans trying to get through Rocky Point. It's like trying to get through West Shore coming from St. Pete. So my first note when I read the report was, why are we not building frontal roads here and overpasses at these traffic lights that create the congestion on both of these limited, because we have to build out into the water. Now, I would have thought at some point that was not possible, but we just did it with the bicycle trail. I used to bike commute, take the bus over in the morning with my bike, and I worked in Clearwater, and I would bike home when I was training to for long distance in the 2-foot solid line. And when they built the trail, it seems like they did build additional land or reaffirmed additional land to along the Courtney Campbell. Yes, there was a little access road, but it's significant. That piece of land got significantly larger from the end of the highway to the water, particularly on the south side. So, I mean, I would say do something, because at Rocky Point, we have land. Yes, we would have to buy it, but there's no pools there or anything on the hotel property. So we could build a, what do we call it, a frontage road and stop that choke. Love to see that on Gandy as well, but but the north side isn't used that much that spare road where you get on into hotel and then you come out at the parking lot. So I was thinking building, because I used to also take the bus. And I said this to Omar when I came in, I'm interested that they're saying transportation again. It's like saying transportation on the Howard Franklin. We build capacity and then we don't use it. You know, so now we're gonna add another lane. That is a busy road. You might think about it when you're driving, but imagine riding a bicycle on a 2-lane. I mean, it was scary, but it prepared me in training for when I was doing more long distance cycling. So the first thing is some kind of frontage road at Rocky Point. I mean, I don't understand why we keep building on floodable land. And we build high rises, you know, and they took that restaurant away and then they built all these condos and apartments. On the east end of Rocky Point on the south side. So again, we're building capacity. We did say that we had some lighting problems post Milton. I would assume we'd have some electricity problems on Rocky Point. Particularly post storm, if we shut down, if we had electricity loss. And we seem to be building more when on the north side of Rocky Point, we have all those houses being built. I think they're building another hotel. Again, floodable land that they can't get flood insurance for, most likely, that we're paying for through our federal taxes. So we keep building and building on these economic and environmentally sensitive properties. And adding a third lane might move cars faster, more cars faster, but we're still gonna end up with the same choke points. And up to water quality, I thought that's why we built the bridge by the hotels. There's a small bridge, created a water circulation issue. I thought we built that to help move waters from the north side to the south side. I don't know if it worked. I don't know if there's been a study. You know, trying to think, it's been a while since I've ridden it. I'm not sure if there's a bridge between Rocky Point and the airport.
It's the west side, not the east side.
Right. The west side, we put the bridge in.
No, the west side is the problem, not the east side of the road.
Okay. Well,
North side.
Okay, you're talking more on the Safety Harbor side. Okay. Well, there's a small bridge there. It's not big. And, it's always been there. The other thing was, the reversible idea. That's just putting up lights. I mean, I'm from Philadelphia and we have reversible lanes on the Benjamin Franklin Bridge. I have this zipper thing that moves the middle barricade and the machine just runs over before, during high commute times and shifts the lane and they have lights. You just put up light poles and put the lights on, red X, green. That's significantly cheaper than building an entirely additional 2 lanes. And we are always talking about money here, it seems. You know, I'm still shocked when David pointed out that we were gonna expand, I think Hutchinson or something for 1.5 miles, and it was gonna cost more than the entire our annual operating budget. You know, so to me, it seems just putting in more equipment, saying X, green arrow, that would be a lot cheaper than building another lane. I used to work at the end of the Courtney Campbell and I can't tell you what hurricane it was, but the Howard Franklin was backed up for 3 days, morning through night, to get people out of Pinellas County. This was a good 15, 20 years ago. And that would be, and basically that would just dump onto the veterans, but keep expanding the veterans too. So, and I made this one before, we didn't move here to live in LA, to keep building highways and putting more lanes and putting more lanes. I went to a conference on the West Coast and landed at 11 a.m. on a Saturday morning in Long Beach. Got on the interstate, 8 lanes going 80 miles an hour each direction. I actually got off the highway at the next exit, bought a pack of cigarettes, and I quit smoking for 90 days. I'm not doing this for hundreds of miles. So, and I think, Councilman, you said it, we built the cycle lanes on Cass Street. If we build it, they will come. I mean, I ride, most of you know I ride a bike a lot. I mean, that's my 275 is coming south to get onto that separate. So if we build lanes and we know that our population is going to increase significantly. Now, does that mean a little more in Pinellas? I think they're almost saturation. It is the densest populated county, most densely populated county in the state already. Not sure how much more residential can be built there, but we'll figure a way to build higher and put more people into less space, which would then increase the traffic capacity that's needed to get people out for hurricanes, but also just driving. I mean, that is, when I was riding a bike, I would ride all the way around the top on Hillsborough when I was training, and then come over to Gandy in the old days. The other thing is the entire raising of the highway. That's the only way to protect it against potential flooding. We already know the waves come up over when the storms come. We've all seen the pictures. That would be a raising of the entire highway, not just certain places, because we're still got the flooding problem. So when I originally read this, I was like, do we want 6 lanes of high-speed traffic? Because nobody drives slow on the Gordy Campbell, not even a retiree. So they're all going above the speed limit. We put a significant investment into the recreational side on the south side, and now we're going to put in 2 more lanes. This seems like a waste of money again, where we have other, and I know it's unfunded, but we have other priorities. I mean, it's taking like Dale Mabry and Kennedy sometimes up to 3 times to get through that intersection. And we have other places to spend this money than to make the commute a little bit easier with an extra lane, when it's still gonna bottleneck at Rocky Pool. So
Thank you.
that's on my family.
Danielle.
Good morning. So I'm with Tampa Parks and Rec. We did approach FDOT about closing vehicular access to the access road and the trail, that section that's there around Benty Davis Beach. They declined. We do close that area for holidays. Like, it was closed August 30th through September 3rd to vehicular traffic. If you've ever been out there on a weekend day, you see all the cars pulled up with their speakers and grills and all that, and it's not a very friendly place for families if you're not part of the group that normally goes out there. But that is something that we, Parks and Rec, have looked at and proposed to FDOT. I don't know if that's something that could be looked at again, or maybe encouraged from the TPO side. But it does make a big difference in resources for us. We end up with less trash there. It's still open to bicycles and pedestrians. You can still get there. I know our TPD Marine unit spends a lot of time out there on the weekends patrolling, specifically for jet skis coming in and out of that area there at Whiskey Joe's. That is a continued concern for us. We have also proposed some landscape additions, I think, in the form of trees and such, to try to help hold some of the soil. We do see a lot of erosion out there at the beach and along the trail in general. That was also declined. And I can't remember the name of the program where they will give us basically landscape money, but they were not interested in our safety proposals, basically, which is pretty disappointing. I was trying to pull the plans up, but I can't find them right this second. But we started closing. I know we closed Memorial Day weekend. We closed the 4th of July, and we closed Labor Day, and we had no complaints. We didn't hear anything. There were no safety incidences, just restricting that space for pedestrians and bicyclists and people who were willing to, go on a bicycle versus cars coming in and kind of setting up camp. But Courtney Campbell Causeway and Benty Davis in particular, kind of a hot button issue around here for safety. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. We do have Tampa's Green Team goes out, I think, every Monday and does a beach cleanup after every weekend. They collect a fair amount of trash. So, yeah. Just thought I'd include that as knowledge for y'all.
Thank you. That is a very good point.
Yeah. It is a cultural asset, but it's
we have
challenging.
To figure out how to get people there. Yeah. Maintain safety of it and the conversion.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay. So we've given you a lot to think about. But yeah, absolutely looking at how we preserve the asset, but also protect it. I think that has been, at least on the eastern side, an issue for quite some time.
There is a requested action, motion to provide comments to TPO staff recommendations.
So we can, okay.
Summarize.
Well, no, I mean, I assume that you have taken all those notes so that you can, okay, so we have a motion for, can we get a motion to include all of our comments in the middle?
Motion.
Okay.
Include everything discussed.
Okay, David, made a motion and Nicole seconded. Any other comments anybody wants to throw in?
Just real quick, I apologize. There is a mention of mass transit returning to the Courtney Campbell. As somebody who rode it, going to Clearwater, it was busy, but it was very limited to rush hour. There was a noon round trip that the few times that I took it, that was also crowded. But it was the 100, 300, I can't remember. 200. It was the 200, and that was run by Hart, and that was cut. There is the only other public transit connection to Pinellas County north of the Howard Franklin is the overland route. I think it's a minibus, I've never been on it, that runs from the Northwest Transit Center and then runs to Countryside Mall. That's not commutable, to be honest. I looked at jobs out in Oldsmar, and you really can't commute on that minibus. So not that the Courtney Campbell would increase that possibility, but we only have 2 transit routes that connect both sides of this bay. And the 300 has been reduced, which runs over the Howard Franklin and runs over Ulmerton. And the 100 has gotten better. The 100 has significantly improved. It runs regular times. I have commuted to St. Pete on the 100. But the problem with that is still the West Shore and Bay apartment traffic lanes. I've ridden my bike faster across Gandy Bridge than taking that bus. I missed that bus and passed it riding over the bridge. So yes, it's a great idea, but we still only have two routes for, what do we call it? Transportation disadvantaged people. To connect one side of the bay to the other, unless you're gonna pay $20 to $30 for Uber.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, the land use, look at how the TPO and planning commission work together. Who's helping with that today?
That will be Me, Elizabeth Watkins with TPO staff, and then I have my colleague with me, Katrina Corcoran from the Planning Commission. I'm sharing my screen, and it looks like it's showing in the room, so we'll get started. So,
about the other field. Yeah. When I click on it. Yes. It's a little confusing because it's dynamic text.
Hold on, let me
Yeah.
just mute somebody.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, there we go. All right. Good morning, LRC. The purpose of this presentation today is to talk with you a little bit about how transportation and land use work here in Hillsborough County, and more specifically, a look at how the Planning Commission and the Transportation Planning Organization work together on those synergies. So, from a staff perspective, our organization is called Plan Hillsborough, and there are three different boards that staff support. The first is the Planning Commission, which recommends the comprehensive plan for all 4 municipalities in Hillsborough County. And there's the Transportation Planning Organization, which LRC is a subcommittee of, and then the Hillsborough River Interlocal Planning Board. So we have different expertise from land use to transportation to environmental and resiliency, all working on those nexuses between transportation, land use, environment, and resources. So there are many mandated items. So the Planning Commission is required in state statute to have a comprehensive plan and associated future land use map, and overseeing and administering all of the subcomponents of that. The Transportation Planning Organization is required by federal law, and as you all are very familiar with, there are many long-range transportation programs and plans that are required that we complete. The Hillsborough River Interlocal Planning Board is actual locally required agency, and they maintain and update the river master plan for the Hillsborough River. There are a few core TPO work products that come before you, mostly focus on long-range planning for the long-range transportation plan, the short-term transportation improvement program, which illustrates the funded projects over the next 5 years, and our unified planning work program, which essentially guides the planning studies as well as staff directives on what initiatives need to be studied. But what we all do together is, whether it's the Planning Commission or the Transportation Planning Organization, we're always thinking about all modes, whether that be bicyclists or walkers or transit takers. That influences the land use. How are we getting to the places that we live, work, and play? And then how does that network facilitate those connections? So, what is a comprehensive plan? Well, a comprehensive plan is a long range policy direction for a community. It's required by state law and typically updated every 7 to 10 years. The Planning Commission drafts that and then ultimately is adopted by the 4 municipalities individually. So, Hillsborough County has their own comp plan, City of Tampa, Temple Terrace, and Plant City. And at its core, what it does, it provides high-level direction on land use, environmental protection, infrastructure, and public services. And the zoning code must be consistent with the comp plan. So we wanted to be really clear about what the comp plan can do and what it cannot do. It can help envision future growth based on the community's values and priorities, and present or provide consistency with new development over the plan's vision. It also can help prioritize funding to help guide infrastructure to be consistent with that community and land use vision. But also important is what it cannot do. So the comp plan is really at that 10,000 foot level. So it's not the place to issue or manage permits or bring any code concerns or even oversee the design of the roadways. There are many different documents and procedures that interplay with the comprehensive plan at the site level. So within the comprehensive plan, there are a few specific policy examples that direct staff to work together. So we're all Plan Hillsborough staff, but the land use team, who primarily focus on the comp plans and working with our local government partners in land use, they provide a consistency finding on our long range transportation plan. and also includes jurisdiction comprehensive plan. And these are all brought through the Planning Commission, even though they touch TPO work. And then from the TPO side, we comment on comprehensive plan amendments and rezoning and offer transportation recommendations for those to be considered in the land use process. And there are specific directives. I won't read through all of these, but these are adopted policies within the comprehensive plan that really facilitate that requirement to coordinate transportation and land use. And now I'll hand it over to my colleague Katrina to talk at a high level about transportation and land use and some great examples locally.
Good morning, everyone. Katrina Corcoran, Planning Commission staff. I'm happy to be here to present on the other half of this presentation. Again, just looking at land use and transportation, we wanted to use a couple of visual slides here. The Planning Commission side, we work on the land use, think about communities, housing, the built environment, and that really interplays with our transportation planning organization side. So thinking broadly about transportation as connecting communities, looking at things such as infrastructure and the natural environment. Next slide, please. So here, we really like this visual just to show you with future land use, and on the Planning Commission side, we look very broadly at land use, density and intensity. So you can kind of see that we look at how those uses are organized, but then we look a little bit more closely at zoning, and that's a little bit more specific on how those uses are categorized and exactly what can go on what parcels. And then more broadly, we look at the transportation network and how that interplays with both the zoning and the land use plan. Next slide, please. So now that we've talked more broadly about land use and transportation, we'd like to briefly go over some examples of where the two intersect within our comprehensive plans and other examples that we have within our agency. So starting off, we have the context-based classification. So this is a place-sensitive approach to roadway design. Think of it as the form of the road. So the land use surrounding a roadway is used for that roadway design and to further Vision Zero goals. If you look at the graphic here to the right, you can see that a road may be designed differently based on being surrounded by rural uses versus if you look at the urban general, your roadways will be designed a little bit differently based on those land uses. And then we have our policies within the comprehensive plans related to context classification, direct staff to look at that context classification when looking at land use changes and updates. We also have a context classification map within both the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan and the Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. However, this has taken a step further with our jurisdictions. So there have been, the context classification is also included in the Complete Streets Guidebook for Hillsborough County, as well as the MOVES mobility plan within the City of Tampa. So they can look at that a little bit more closely in terms of implementation for roadway projects. Next slide, please. Along with context classification, we also have local functional classification. So think of functional classification as the function of the road. It's a key factor for highway design, pavement design, and land development regulation. And it does include classifications of different road types. So it breaks it down by principal arterials. These are interstates with higher volumes but more limited access. We also have regular arterials, which would be higher capacity roads, but they're just below those interstates. We have collectors, which are low to moderate capacity roads, which move traffic from locals to arterials. And then finally, we have locals, which are those lower capacity roads, but they also have the highest access to adjacent properties. And it's important to note that a road's functional classification can have an impact from a comprehensive plan or land development code standpoint. So this could mean allowing or directing certain land uses to be located on certain types of roadways. So for example, we have commercial locational criteria requirements within our comprehensive plans that direct us to look at the road's functional classification. We as staff also often will look at the functional classification as to encourage different types of higher density residential. So for example, we might encourage higher density residential on arterial roadways. And again, our functional classification, we have policies about that within the comprehensive plan. Some of the jurisdictions even have the local functional classification map adopted as a part of the comprehensive plan. So next slide, please. And then again, looking a little bit more specifically, this is something that is specific to Hillsborough County. It's called Centers and Connections, or CNC for short. You can see our tagline right here on the left-hand side. It's all about expanding choices for living and getting around. This is within our future land use section for Hillsborough County, and it focuses again on those centers and corridors. We've coordinated those with our community plans and our major intersections. And the goal here is to provide a bonus structure that can expand housing opportunities and choice, and encourage more pedestrian-friendly development. And again, it's that bonus structure and allowing an increase in density or intensity to the next land use category. On the right-hand side here, we have just a couple of graphics to show you what that bonus would ultimately do. So for example, in the USF area, you could go from residential with 20 units per acre to a slight increase in density and then have residential with 35 units per acre. In Palm River, you can see here a single family home, residential with about 9 units per acre, and then that slight bump might allow us to do a duplex or a townhome residential with 15 units per acre. Next slide, please. We ultimately, with the Centers and Connections bonus concept, ended up with a map that it shows the applicability of this bonus throughout Hillsborough County. Again, this is specific only to the county. Our connections, which of our roadways either have an adopted roadway context classification that supports more walkability. They also have future land use categories that already support the potential for higher density. Our corridors within the coastal high hazard area were excluded, so we didn't want to be having that higher density in those areas. And then we do have the potential for the density bonuses along these corridors on our map. With our centers, those include major intersections and areas identified in community plans for redevelopment or walkability. So making sure that they were really coordinated with those existing community plans in the Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. And there's a potential for intensity and density bonuses within those centers. Next slide, please. On the Tampa Comprehensive Plan side, we are currently working on updating several sections of the plan, but within one of the major ones is the future land use section. So kind of complementary to what we have with the Centers and Connections bonus in Hillsborough County, this is something that is being proposed as the Tampa Transit Ready Corridors. These are major roadways that have heart service or corridors that connect to regional activity centers. So think of downtown, West Shore, those areas. And ultimately, we want to have a mix of housing and commercial and amenities to serve these neighborhoods and also promote that walkable environment. We're envisioning growth and changes in these areas, but not as much as areas that might be considered regional activity centers. Again, downtown West Shore. Next slide, please. This shows you the map that is proposed for this is the 2045 place types map. Those Tampa Transit Ready corridors there are in the blue. And the applicability is within, I believe it's 1/8 of a mile buffer around those corridors. And again, this is a bonus, a slight increase in density, but it wouldn't be quite as much as those larger green areas that you see, which are the regional activity centers. And one important thing to note with this is that while the Centers and Connections bonus has been adopted on the county side, the city side, this is still something in progress. We're still working on the policy language for this, as well as the maps and the ultimate applicability with this. Next slide, please. This shows you just some project information, some of our major projects that we have going on right now. On the Planning Commission side, we have our major comprehensive plan updates. Right now, the biggest focus is the Tampa Live, Grow, Thrive 2045 comprehensive plan update. Again, I mentioned the flu with the Tampa Transit Ready corridors. We also have housing and coastal. Those actually just went to the Planning Commission last week, were found consistent. Ultimately, all three of these section updates will be in front of Tampa City Council next year, early next year, for their consideration. On the county side, our future land use section was updated or effective earlier this month. So ultimately, the entire Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan has now been updated. But on that side, we also have the Hillsborough County Urban Service Area Expansion Project, which is a pretty major project that may be of interest to you. Of course, on the Transportation Planning Organization side, we also have our LRTP that was recently adopted, as well as the Transportation Improvement Program. So we wanted to include those links for you as well. Next slide, please. This concludes our presentation. This just shows our information, emails. If you have any extra questions after this, of course, we can take Q&A right now as well. And then Sarah Caper also contributed to this presentation, although she's not joining Elizabeth and I today. Thank you very much. We're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have a question? Gus.
Sorry, everybody. There's been a lot of writing about the urban service area expansion. For people that are residents of the city already, what's the advantage of that to include?
Not for city, it's for county.
So that's a county designation, the urban.
Yes.
And what's the advantage, say, for city residents for the county to expand that urban definition?
There's no benefit to the city.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're two wildly different cities. So yes, we are currently, the city of Tampa just started its $1 million review and rewrite of the land development code. So this is a very timely report. So it's going to be very interesting, but we're very excited about the things that we're updating in the comp plan so that we can make some of our land development code a little more urban, a little more progressive. At least that's my goal. And speak to the others. So yeah, any questions for anyone? That was a great report. Thank you so much. Okay, we're on to District 7 Spotlight.
Hello, I'm Andrew. I'm going to share my screen. Are you able to see my cover slide? Okay, great.
Yeah.
I'm Andrew Gray. I'm with the Florida Department of Transportation. I am their interim bicycle and pedestrian program manager. I'm a consultant for them. I work for JMT. Exciting news on that. We recently have found a new bicycle program manager, so they will be starting in January. I'm looking forward to working with them. But today I'm going to be talking about some different uses that we have done with AI, particularly how that works with vulnerable road user safety, particularly just using AI to detect certain movements in video to help us accelerate our analysis. I'm going to talk about 3 use cases. The first one today is going to be about the Tampa Heights Mobility Project, where we were considering the addition of some raised crosswalks. So what we did on this project is we used AI to determine if pedestrians are crossing at our crosswalks, and when they cross, are they activating our RFBs? So the Tampa Heights Mobility Project is an upcoming urban corridor project on Tampa Street and Florida Avenue. What this is going to do is replace the road, install some new signals, repair drainage infrastructure, and just generally make some complete street improvements. So during the design process, the safety office investigated if raised crosswalks were going to be something we can add to this. And what a raised crosswalk is, it is a ramp speed table that's going to span the entire width of our roadway. And we are able to install these on roadways if the target speed is 30 miles an hour or less. Raised crosswalks have been found to reduce pedestrian crashes by 45%. There are also some other benefits are they're going to elevate the pedestrian to make them more prominent in the driver's field of view. It is also going to force motorists to slow down and increase their yielding. So we went out to assess some existing conditions at our crosswalks that are currently at level, not raised, but we do have RFBs out there. So we collected 72 hours of video data and worked with the University of South Florida, their cutter, to have their AI manually, or not manually, but to detect different pedestrian movements. So I'm going to play some videos here. The first video, you're going to see a pedestrian cross the roadway with the beacon activated. And you can see at the top, the RRFB counter went up by 1. So I'm going to play that again, hopefully. So this is, you can see the RFB on went up by 1, just automatically using our AI. And in this next video, you're going to see somebody cross the roadway without activating the beacon. So you should see RFB off increase by 1. So we were able to do this over 72 hours of several different locations. And generally, we found most people are activating the RFB when they cross the crosswalk. However, based off of the drainage impacts, we decided not to add raised crosswalks. But this is a really interesting use case for artificial intelligence to help us improve our safety assessment and make better data-driven decisions. Our next use case was on the Pinellas Bayway. Of course, this is in Pinellas County, where we recently added a cycle track, and we wanted to do some near-miss assessment for bicyclists and motor vehicles. In 2023, we added a two-way separated bicycle track on the Pinellas Bayway, and this was a very significant accomplishment for us because this closed a 2-mile gap for non-motorized travel. It connected Fort DeSoto to the Pinellas Trail. After construction, the public and the area had expressed some safety concerns related to near-miss collisions, specifically at driveways and intersections. So the safety office went out and collected some video and did a near-miss assessment to see to what extent these claims are true. And in this video, you're going to see a 3-second time to collision, where you're going to see, hopefully, this bicyclist travel across the screen, 3 seconds, and then the vehicle is going to hit the same spot 3 seconds later. And this AI automatically detected this for us and flagged it. Play that again. And then in the next video, you're going to see the vehicle travel first, and then you're going to see your bicyclist in this 3-second time to collision assessment that we did. And in this video, you can pretty clearly see that the drivers or the bicyclists are yielding to each other and then making their movement. So because the lowest time to collision that we observed was around 3 seconds, that's what we set our metric to. Different people have used different metrics depending on the situation. But on this particular analysis that we did, we found that vehicles and bicyclists are yielding to each other properly, and everyone is following the rules of the roadway and being safe. And our last use case was regarding high friction surface treatment that we added on Hillsborough Avenue. So we used AI to determine if vehicles are stopping properly at signalized intersections to see whether or not they're entering the crosswalk or not. So what is high friction surface treatment? It is essentially just a layer of durable anti-abrasion aggregate that is going to increase friction and improve skid resistance. Some places that you can add this are horizontal curves, interchange ramps, intersections if you have an approach with high speed, maybe a steep downgrade. If you have a history of rear end crashes, failure to yield, red light running crashes, also at crosswalk approaches. And in that left image, you can see high friction surface treatment being applied to the roadway. And on the right, you can see what that looks like on a curve. It's a much darker color. So we applied high friction surface treatment on Hillsborough Avenue at some signalized intersections because we had an issue with drivers stopping in the crosswalk. So one of the metrics we wanted to discuss was, if we add the high friction surface treatment, is this going to reduce the stopping distance of vehicles? And is it going to reduce improper stopping behavior? And another one is to reduce hydroplaning. So we went out and collected some video footage. This intersection you see here is Hillsborough Avenue at North Central Avenue. This is just west of I-275 in Seminole Heights. And on the left, you can see a snagit of what our AI flagged was expected stopping behaviors. You can see that the drivers are stopped near the stop bar and definitely behind the crosswalk. On the right, you can see what we flagged, or what the AI flagged, as an improper stopping behavior. Clearly, this vehicle is inside the crosswalk, and that's not what we want to see. So we did it before, 1 month after installation, 9 months, and 14 months after the installation. And what we found is that overall 63% reduction in improper stopping behavior after the high friction surface treatment was absolved or installed. And just want to note that this was done during COVID-19. But overall, this shows that high friction surface treatment was really effective in improving our pedestrian safety. And just an interesting use case for AI to help us know that this is a proven safety countermeasure. And a fun fact about this is we were actually selected for the National Roadway Safety Award by the Federal Highway Administration for our high friction surface treatment. And you can see a picture of Emmett Duran, the District 7 traffic safety engineer, accepting this award with the former FHWA administrator. And just want to leave you on a safety message that coming on the holiday season, please do not drink and drive, or just anytime at all. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Anyone with any questions?
I'm curious. Hi, Andrew. The use of AI. So is this currently a pilot project of using AI, or, I'm thinking about how you apply AI to other ITS technologies and being able to see that on a widespread scale, I think would be really exciting to see. So I'm just curious what StaffDOT's plans for rolling this out a little bit further.
I can't speak to sort of the ITS applications. That's a different department, but I know they are working on it. I'm more involved in particularly safety applications on bicyclists and pedestrians. And this is sort of we're easing our way into using artificial intelligence. It's pretty new. There's a variety of different vendors coming to us, and there's a lot of different use cases. So we're looking to see what opportunities we have to further incorporate AI into our safety analysis and decision making, to just make better, smarter, faster decisions.
Yeah, I think I bring that up only because Thea does a lot of, or is considering a lot of ITS technology for pedestrian and bicyclist safety in order to be able to communicate with drivers especially. So this is one where AI is detecting pedestrians, but is it the notification to drivers like, hey, pedestrians are here, is I think that next safety step of how are we improving that communication. So drivers who, if limited visibility, if you're coming around a curve, if you're coming off of an exit ramp, that detection is actually really a helpful piece to improve safety at those vulnerable areas. So it's just, and I've seen some technology where they are detecting pedestrians, but maybe have a hard time detecting bicyclists. So it's really exciting to see that the assistance of AI in that realm.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it as well. We actually have a upcoming bigger pilot project where we're going to be using, we're going to be trying to find ways to notify drivers about potential conflicts with bicyclists at signalized intersections. So we're going to be using some connected vehicle technology, and I think we're using microwave detection to detect bicyclists that are approaching intersections, and then that is going to automatically activate possibly a blank out sign or send a message into the vehicle to notify the drivers if they have that technology in their car. I think we're hoping to start construction by June of 2025. So we're going to, once that's installed and everything, we're definitely going to do a before and after analysis to see if that technology was effective in reducing crashes.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Yes.
Sorry. The sign indicator at the corner of electronic signage, Cass and North Boulevard, is if that's an indication of the sensitivity of, determining bicyclists and pedestrians. It's a great idea, but I don't ever see it change. And I ride that road a lot. So I ride a bicycle and I don't see the bicycle count change. So I don't know what the level of technology is, and if those numbers are used by AI to determine effectiveness or whatnot. But it doesn't seem like the technology is caught up to the reality yet.
Bicycle counter on Cass. It's not instantaneous.
Yeah, it is. That data is definitely being recorded because, for example, on Walk Bike Tampa is World Car Free Day. We were able to identify the change in number of users on that particular Sunday versus compared to other Sundays.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it changes. It's just not instant. And I think that's kind of what you're getting at. And I'm just gonna say, I still think if we focus on very simple things like reducing speed limits, better, cheaper, Okay, that's it. Okay, old business? Anybody else? I have some old business. The Route 1 Fare Free MOU should be signed by City Council tomorrow. There is a kickoff, I guess, media event on Friday at 10 a.m. at the corner of Whiting and Franklin. It's basically the bus stop where if you get off at the streetcar, you can hop right on, you cross the street, and you can get on the one right there. So that is where we'll be having the big announcement about the new about the new Fare Free Route 1, which will then begin on January 5th, which is a Sunday. And I know we have some kickoff stuff coming after that, but I don't think that's finalized yet. Am I correct?
Pretty sure not.
Yeah. So if we get that information, I can share it with the group.
I have a question about that. Is Hart planning on having signage inside the bus explaining that this is brought to you by the city of Tampa? And
that's a great question.
I think riders should know that, there was an effort in which jurisdiction led the effort in making it this way over the year, you know what I mean? So when people get on, they see a sign, maybe you'll get more feedback if they know it's directly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great point. I can definitely get with the marketing team on that to make sure it says that.
Yes, and I believe that's kind of part of the MOU is that the city of Tampa will be at that. Kickoff will be at all of these things. So yes, but that's a very good point. I like that. So we will, thank you. I will add that to our list of focus areas. Okay, any new business?
So I had one thing, I know that in here, Thea hosted the US 31 study workshops. This was pre-PD&E public outreach listening sessions, really just wanting to hear from folks before the official study begins. So those workshops were completed. We had about 76 people come to 3 different workshops, which actually we thought was pretty robust turnaround. A lot of folks were really excited about something being done in South County, I think is really what we've heard. But they have expressed some interest in exploring other avenues as well, like 41 and 75, like why 301 is I think the question for the county. So that was presented to the Thea board on Monday of this week. And so I know that there will be some information coming out to the county commission soon, at least from Thea. And then in the new year, their PD&E should be out to bid and should be starting. So for any of you who are interested in 301 area, just stay tuned. I know that the more information will be coming out on that.
I went to that, the one at the Brooklyn Library. It was very well. The one I was at, there was a lot of people there. I live right around there, so I was a citizen. And I have a question though, and I know this takes a long time, so this is nothing instantaneous, but a lot of traffic that I see is moving. It's coming from the east, getting to 301 and then up. Is there, that's just my view. Yeah. I don't know if the data actually proves that or not, but it seems like all the roads going east, Bloomingdale and all that stuff are jammed. Is there any thought in the future of an eastward kind of
that's an
extension?
I think the feedback that has been received from the community workshops that has been brought up, I think that folks are asking about the east-west connections in particular, especially if something is built or something, because the accessing those roads from the eastern communities as well as even the south can be challenging. So I think it's not a part of it yet, I would say, but I know that that's coming up and I can imagine that that is a logical next step in exploring that, or at least including in the PD&E, the study of those east-west connections and impacts on those routes.
And I'm really gonna go crazy here. Has there ever been a study, and I know we tried to do the ferry, which seemed to, but a lot of the traffic from the south seems to be coming through the city to get to McDill or other part, is there, that would never, this is always my kind of thought, somehow getting people from McDill, like a bridge, and you brought that up years ago too, of, you know, there's probably environmental issues with that and things like that, but if it would be, if people are driving like 20 miles to go this way and we can reduce by 10 miles their route, I don't know if that is feasible or plausible or anything. It's just.
There's a toll bridge that could replace any missing toll money that would come off of the traffic off the highway. And that's a, like you said, and you go to the end of Gandy and you see the power plant right there, you're like, why am I now gonna drive all the way around the top of the bay?
Well, and there's a lot of development occurring in Manatee County, which I think a lot of these people, and some of them might work down in Manatee County, but I do think a lot are gonna come to the job center here at the university and stuff like that, so.
Well, if I may, that bridge would have to be as high or
Yeah.
higher than the Sunshine
Yeah,
Scout.
because it's all about the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, I think that's kind of a bigger issue, which is why it's very sad that we did not consider the ferry more strongly.
Well, and I know the bridge had, but there are areas that have tunnels, I know it's even
Yeah,
way more expensive, so we can't afford anything, so there's money, it can be solved, but I don't think.
And the PSTA has picked up the ferry costs, yeah, on the safety of the Pinellas side of the bank, so. Yeah,
Wait,
see?
what was that? We're back to the ferry again and somebody's paying something?
No. Just Pinellas County and the PSTA in Pinellas County is looking at the ferry operations now.
But just for their kind of not getting.
That, the extent of that study, I know, so I know that they've done, some work with Clearwater Ferry, but because of they're now getting ferry operations under PSTA's umbrella, I think that next logical step is to get the Cross Bay Ferry. So, yeah, that's still to be determined, but I know that that's always, there's something. Yeah, always.
And to clarify that, so I may have missed some of the political, the Hillsborough County Commission is what killed that, correct?
Correct. Emily.
Separate topic.
Sure.
Sidewalk Stompers will be hosting another, road safety mural project on January 11th at Mabry Elementary. This is one of several that we've done, and the idea is to use paint, for both community activity and to redefine the way the road functions, specifically the geometry of it. We are narrowing lanes, we are highlighting areas that are not for parking near crosswalks and driveways. And the goal is ultimately to have these in a lot of schools so that it becomes better than the school flashing sign, something that indicates to people this is a place where there are vulnerable users and to change the way that we drive. So feel free to come out and join us and watch us paint on January 11th. Yeah, Mabry Elementary, yeah, and we've had a lot of success working with the city of Tampa Ability Department on doing these street mural projects. This has been a slower process, discussing it with the county and some of the county-based schools.
Wonderful. Okay, anyone else?
A question, I don't know the name of the school, it's a couple blocks from my house. Maine and McDill. I saw some stuff in the neighborhood, like intersections, but recently I drove through that area at the end of school day. And the traffic was just all the way down into the residential neighborhood, trying to pick up kids at that school.
The McFarland Park is a magnet school, so that is an ongoing complication with Hillsborough County Schools of how you arrange transportation effectively at a school that is not a neighborhood school, so that the majority of people are arriving by car. And that flows pretty well, but it does back up, but you'll find that at most schools that have a large car ridership. and back to schools are particularly vulnerable to that.
Thank you.
Okay, well, everyone has a wonderful holiday and a wonderful new year, and we look forward to seeing you all in January. So, I think I have to do a motion for today. Sure. Have a lovely one. Be safe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pardon?